Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what's good, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you out there to everyone, as always, for watching and for listening, for following and subscribing. You guys are the best. I appreciate y'all very, very much. We're going to have a Seattle Seahawks preview today. Go over some of the keys to victory for the Buffalo Bills to win this game. Some bowl predictions, score prediction. Maybe we'll squeeze a little bit of Sabres talk in as well. That's what's on the agenda today. And to help me out, I'm joined by a recurring guest, my buddy from over at the Buffalo Sports Collective, PK. What's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
Busy. Very, very busy. We're closing on the house next week or the following week. So it's bare bones in this house. That's why the lighting is bad to my right here. Watching the dogs. It's nonstop for the next month and a half, especially with bandit season kicking off. I picked the wrong time to be moving because we're going to be entering our busy season and I'm going to be doing a bunch of house stuff. And then we're going to 2 shows a week. I'm always stupid with timing. And this was probably the worst timing. I've decided to sell my house and buy a different house. I
don't envy you. Look, in the end, it's going to be good. You know what I mean? But this part of the process is never fun. Moving somewhere, whether you're owning, whether you rent, wherever it is, that part of it is always a pain in the ass. And you're like in the midst of it right now. So yeah, I do not envy you there. This is our Friday episode. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do that now. Smash that like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you also head on over to like Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you follow us there as well. It's the only place you're going to be able to get all the episodes in its entirety, plus some bonus audio episodes only will be available on that part of this platform. Look, PK, we were talking briefly, and before we get into Bill Seattle, a lot that I want to dive into there. I think this is going to be a fun matchup. Something happened. We're recording this Thursday, mid-afternoon-ish, and late Wednesday night, something went down a little bit on social media, more specifically Twitter X. You don't know what I'm talking about. We just talked briefly before the camera started rolling here. So this is like, you're finding this out probably the same time that 99% of people who are watching or listening to the show, they're hearing the first about this as well. So late Wednesday night, well, let me set the table a little bit better. Wednesday, maybe afternoon or something, there was a Twitter account called Bill's Muse, and they put up a lot of stats, very useful, informative, sometimes entertaining. And they put up a stat that said Damar Hamlin and Sauce Gardner have the same amount of career interceptions now too. More or less a stab at Sauce Gardner not being good. You know, it wasn't like Damar's the best or anything like that. It was pretty much just saying Sauce Gardner, they're talking shit to him. He's only got 2 career interceptions. All right. I made a comment. I'm going to pull this up because this drew the ire of Damar Hamlin's father. To me, kind of got a really wild statement. But anyway, what I said, and this is all I said, I'm going to pull it up on the video side. I'll read it on the audio side. I said interceptions can be deceiving. There's amazing interceptions like the one Teron Johnson had off Aaron Rodgers a couple weeks ago, or Micah Hyde had against the New England Patriots in the playoffs. Then there's Damar's 2 picks this year. An air-mailed gift by Trevor Lawrence, 10 feet over Brian Thomas Jr.'s head, and Benford, a hit and a tip ball right into Damar Hamlin last week. That's what I said in response to the tweet, directly to the person who tweeted about Sauce Gardner and Damar Hamlin having the same amount of interceptions. Sure enough, late on Wednesday night, Damar Hamlin's father, Mario Hamlin, tweets at me and says, and I quote here, "Damn, Pat, I want my son to have kids one day. Get his nuts out your mouth with an emoticon of a squirrel. I'm like, whoa. He's out, get his nut. I mean, he didn't say nuts. There's an emoticon of a nut, but he says, yeah, I want my son to have kids one day. Get his nuts out your mouth. That's what he goes and says to me. So I'm struggling. I'm like, man, do I go back at him? Do I clap back? Do I make this like personal? Do I make this uglier than it already seems to be? For, in my opinion, at least no reason at all. So I write back to him and I said, where was my tweet inaccurate? I said, I've also been very vocal about how much I've liked Damar as a great person and a warrior more times than I could count, which I have, by the way. Maybe social media stalking what's said about your family isn't the right place for you if you can't handle a factual tweet like that. Then he comes right back at me and says, man, miss me with all the backhanded compliments. You can keep them. Nothing factual about your post. I beg to disagree. An interception is an interception, no matter how you slice it. And the end result is the same. Every week, you are glazing and hating on him. His stats don't agree with you, using his name for likes. This is from Damar Hamlin's dad, again, late on Wednesday night. I want to be, PK, I want to be a little bit, not careful, but understanding. I get it. I understand a father sticking up for his son. I can't imagine, I had a son who played at a high level of just high school football, and I was very defensive of him. And I can't imagine what it would be like if he was a major college football player at the highest level, like Damar's playing in the NFL. People saying negative shit about him all the time. It would drive me bonkers without question. I'm an emotional dude. I probably would snap. So I understand that. I truly do. I'm not playing victim here, like I'm under attack. I get it. I voice very strong opinions on the show. I voice very strong opinions on this podcast, or on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. It comes with the territory. If you're going to talk heavy, expect it back. So I'm not really complaining that Mario Hamlin got after me, although getting my son's nuts out of your mouth is a little bit, maybe excessive. But I'm good with the blowback. That's what I'm saying. I just thought, I don't want your opinion on this. I just thought it was weird. Like, I sure hope that Mario Hamlin doesn't spend a lot of time on Twitter, and he doesn't follow me, and I don't follow him. So he obviously did some kind of search for someone, he looked at the mentions of a tweet or whatever, but I hope he doesn't spend a lot of his time on Twitter looking up negative things that are said about his son, Damar. I mean, engaging, you engage with people, it just gets uglier. And I thought about it. Again, I really didn't say anything after that. In fact, I didn't say anything after that. Very measured, didn't really go back and forth with him, but I was like, God damn. And again, I've said a lot worse things about Damar Hamlin as a football player, and how he's performed this season than that. And that's what he comes after. What do you think when you see something like that? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I thought it was a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, I have the pleasure, and I'm using that in quotations, to run our social media sites over at the BSC. Been doing it for 3.5 years now. It comes with the territory. There's always going to be people out there that say stuff. The best way I've been able to handle it is just like, hey, there's plenty of other platforms out there. If you don't like what we say, there's so many podcasts, so many other things out there that you can be listening to. If you don't like us, that's fine. There are people that do like us. So we're going to not cater to them, but there's people that like what we have to say, and there's people that disagree with what we have to say. As long as you're keeping it with what happens on the field, I don't see how. And again, I'm not a father. I'll never be a father, but I can see where the parent in him comes to defend his child on the field. I think most fathers would do that. But critiquing how somebody plays the sport, I think that's what drives people to watch the sports. Like with lacrosse, the NLL. It's not a very big sport. Most people don't watch it. But what we do is break down the game, we cover the game, and if there's negative parts of the game about a certain player, we'll talk about what we see on the field. That drives views, that drives people listening to our show, but that drives people that go to watch the sport to see if what we're saying is actually true or we're just making stuff up. So as long as you're keeping it within the confines of the sport, I don't see anything wrong with critiquing what we're seeing in our eyes, because one, it drives views for the sport, and it drives views for the players that are on there. It to me, it personally, I view it as a positive, that it's something that helps the sport as long as you're keeping it what is actually happening on the field and no personal attacks. That's how I see it.
I think you said it perfectly, man. I think that's well said. And again, I want to be real clear here. I'm not acting like I'm a victim, like, you know, oh my God, how dare he come after me? My instinct, my paternal instinct, if that's my son who's getting dragged by somebody, whether it's a fan with 2 followers, whether it's a content creator that has a pretty good reach, pretty good following like I do, or it could be a mainstream guy like Sal Capaccio, Matt Perino, you know, whoever it may be with a huge following, my maternal or paternal instincts would be to protect my son. That said, that's not going to play well for you. Like this again, and I don't want anybody to tweet at Mario talking, you know, nasty shit back to him. That's not going to help matters at all. But I do think, knowing how I am, that I'm an emotional person, I do think if I had a son who played in the NFL, or if I had either of my kids were in the spotlight for whatever reason, they could be an actor, it could be a musician, wherever other people are going to judge you, because social media is a cesspool at times. It is a license to be nasty for free. And, you know, I'm not going to say I'm not above that from time to time. I am guilty of being what I'm complaining about right now. I don't think I'd be on social media if it was my kid. I certainly wouldn't look at social media for stuff like that, because again, if he's coming after me for what I said there, I mean, it would be literally a full-time job for Mario Hamlin to go digging through the negative tweets about Damar Hamlin and firing back. Because I'm telling you, as somebody who covers his team, as somebody who has a podcast 5 days a week, almost every single day, it's Bills content related as well. And not even myself, but the things that I see, other people comments on my YouTube page and stuff like that about Damar Hamlin, they're a million times worse. That would make me snap. I get it. I don't know, man. I don't know if social media is the right place for an athlete's father. If you don't have the ability to bite your lip and say it's not worth it, then you probably shouldn't be on it, because it doesn't. Again, I personally, maybe I'm wrong here, I don't think it helps his son. I don't think it helps his image. I don't think it helps Mario Hamlin's image to tell somebody else to get your nuts out of their mouth. Although I will give him props, because if you are going to come at somebody, at least be pretty funny. And I'm not going to lie, that was a good diss. I'll give him credit for that. You give him credit for that, right?
That was a good one. Yeah. I mean, social media is an evil necessity. Sadly, like if we didn't have this podcast, I would not have social media whatsoever. I hate it. And I hate that I have to deal with it. And it's sad that this is where we've come to, that we need it to, you know, everybody's on it. So you need it to be able to grow either what you're trying to promote or grow your product in general. And again, if I didn't have it, if we didn't have this podcast, I would not be on social media. I hate having to deal with it. And I hate that I'm one of the 3 people on our show that have to deal with it. But the second thing, yeah, if you have a family member in a spotlight, in a celebrity status or whatever it is, one, I wouldn't like search their names whatsoever, because there's a ton of wackos out there that say the 100%. Dumbest stuff, like so bad stuff. Like it's pointless to Google it. It's pointless to look it up. But 2, I would definitely not look in the comment section of any type of post. And I know you had like the Terry Pagula 10-year anniversary show a few weeks ago where you read all the comments. I absolutely loved it. But if you're any family member of the Pagulas, you're not going to want to see that. If you're a family member of Kevin Adams, them wishing him happy birthday, don't look through the comments. There's no joy and there's no positivity that you're going to get from looking through any of that kind of stuff. So like I said, stay away from social media as much as you can, because it's a cesspool of just stupidity and evilness. If you can get away from it, stay as far away from it as you humanly possibly can.
imagine being Kevin Adams or, a family member of his and having to see the things that are said on the man's 50th birthday too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I admit, I thought it was funny and entertaining. So that's why I pretty much dedicated an entire episode. Plus, I had to fill it up with something else. One last thing, then we'll get into this preview. I know a lot of people are probably watching this like, Jesus, man. All right, enough. Get on with the preview. Well, maybe if you're watching or listening and you are somebody who does comment on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever towards players, good or bad, you have a little bit of a takeaway from this. I will say one thing. Actually, one thing. I'm a different type of cat, like with this show. And this is who I am. I am an emotional, in the moment reactor on talking Buffalo. Very much the same way often on Twitter X or Facebook or Instagram, whatever, all social media. I react in the heat of the moment. That's what I do. I think there's some people that are certainly turned off by that. And there's some people, I think, mainly the people who watch or listen to this show regularly, they know that's what I am. I'm not Joe Marino. I'm not Bruce Nolan. I'm not the guys over at Cover One, something like that. We're much more measured. In some cases, Eric Turner, very analytical, film-oriented, smart people. You can get a really good education from these guys talking, when they talk about the Bills. Not so much. This is analysis, takeaways, and emotion. That's what my content for the most part is. So I do get a little bit carried away. But I will say one last thing here. In defense of Mario going to Damar's rescue, so to speak, and again, a really good, funny diss, I am going to start reconsidering the way I talk in the heat of the moment about players. I think there's a way to get a point across without necessarily making it sound personal or just straight up mean. Like I'll use Damar for an example. I'm going to stand on this hill. I do not think he's a good starting NFL safety. I just don't. He's a rosterable player. We're not talking about him personally. That goes, who he is as a man goes without saying. Love him. 99.9% of the people around the world love Damar Hamlin, including myself. I don't think he's a very good safety. I don't think he's a starting caliber safety, but he could be struggling in a game. And there's ways to tweet or talk and say, you know what? He's just not getting it done. He's really struggling out there. He looks like a liability at times. He's missing this plays. I think the Bills should consider replacing him, as opposed to, admittedly, and I've done this, be like, yo, I'm sorry. He's an awful safety. He's awful. He's terrible. He's a terrible player. You know what I'm saying, PK? You don't necessarily need to, you can get your point across without being mean and borderline nasty. And there's been times, upon reflection from this altercation, so to speak, with Mr. Hamlin, you know what I'm saying? It's like, maybe I could frame how I feel a little bit better and still get that same point across.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's it always comes off different in text than it's supposed to be through like words and communications. Like people can see a tweet or a comment or whatever and read it how they want to read it, and it might not come off the way that you meant it to. Like, I have no doubt nothing that you're saying is coming off personal, but he might be reading it as personal because it's through text. So I think that's probably where it's coming off, is he's reading it as like a personal attack, where it's not coming off that. It's based on the play on the field. And at least that's how I'm seeing it, where, again, through text, anybody can read it how they want. It's again, it goes back to social media as an evil thing.
It is. All right. Well, now that I will remove the nuts from my mouth there, and we will get into some Bills Seattle stuff. On the injury front, again, we're recording this Thursday afternoon. The Bills did practice already on Thursday. The big news for me, no Terrell Bernard for a second straight day. I don't know if he was at the facility or not. I didn't see that, but I know he did not practice. He was not practicing Wednesday either, and he wasn't at the facility as well. I would say at this point, this is a guess, PK, but it doesn't look good for him playing on Sunday. If he didn't practice at all on Wednesday or Thursday, this is an educated guess here. Follow along with me. Let me know if you agree. If he's not close to 100%, damn near close, I wouldn't play him in this game because A, you don't want to risk him, more longer term damage. You've seen the difference between him and Balin Spector. But also, if you look ahead to next week, this game's important. It matters. But you're playing on the road against an NFC team. The following week, the Bills are in Orchard Park, and they're playing Miami. And if you beat Miami, their season is like, it's pretty much done already. It's like really, really done if you beat Miami in Orchard Park. So if he's like 80%, I'm like, nah, I want to get you at 95% next week. But anyway, no Bernard at practice. Curtis Samuel did not practice, so he's probably going to be out. Dawson Knox and Smoot did return to practice after missing Wednesday. But quickly here, what's your thought on that? What I just said about Bernard? Are you slow playing it with him, even though it's gonna, if he's close to going and he plays, what could happen? But holding him off, do you think that would be the right move right now at this point?
Yeah, I was definitely hoping that we would have seen a limited participation next to the game, but you see in the DNP, I think this probably points to him not playing. I mean, even if you see a limited on Friday, I still would probably hold him out. I think it's the same case with DK Metcalf, where you're seeing he's not practicing on Thursday, even if he's limited on Friday. They have 3 straight and mixed in a bye there, divisional matchups after this one.
Right.
It's similar, like you just said, next week's Miami. Yes, every game's important, but there's ones that mean more, and the divisional games mean more. So I think I'm exactly with you. If he's not practicing whatsoever on Thursday, which we already know he isn't, if he's just limited on Friday, which is a possibility, he could be limited on Friday, I'd hold him out because Miami's game is that much more important than the Seattle game. Again, all important, but it's the divisional matchups where you could possibly put Miami in the way rearview mirror where you don't even see him anymore. I think that's way more important to the Buffalo Bills and their long term rather than just a one game versus a NFC team. So yeah, if he's not anywhere close to 100%, like in the 90s to 95, I would rest him this week, roll out Balin Spector, hope you get the best. And to benefit, I have really liked Dorian Williams a lot more this year, and he progresses getting better and better each season. So maybe this is a bit different than when we saw Balin Spector on the field, because you can rely more on Dorian Williams, who's next to him, than you could have earlier in the season. So with it being an NFC game and Miami on the next week, I would probably lean towards holding him out unless you're guaranteeing he's close to 100%.
I'll tell you what, I was very happy on Monday not Monday, because Sean McDermott, I was very disturbed on Monday because Sean McDermott would not speculate anything on his injury, day to day, week to week. Yep. He said on Wednesday that it was looking more like a day to day. But again, no practice Wednesday, no practice Thursday. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. And no inside information here. I want to emphasize that. But I wouldn't be surprised if people are listening to this like later, Friday, early afternoon, that he hasn't already been ruled out. Because Sean goes on the WGR show with Sal Capaccio Friday morning around 10 o'clock or so. I don't know if he'll rule him out or not. Maybe he'll want to keep Seattle guessing. But my strong guess is that he doesn't play. And again, we are on agreement here. I wouldn't play him either. I don't want to take any chances. He's too important. And speaking of important, the other thing with the Bills I wanted to hit on before we get into Seattle is just getting off the faster starts. I mean, look, that was if you look at the game as a whole, it was an impressive victory over Tennessee on Sunday, a comfortable 24-point victory. They scored 34 unanswered points, but they gave up 10 points to start the game. They're down 10-0. They're down 10-7 at halftime. It could have been worse. This has been a habit this year for the Buffalo Bills. 7 games, they've trailed at the half in 4 of those 7 games, and it didn't look particularly great, at least in the first quarter against the Jets. What do you like? Why do you think the Bills are getting off to these slow starts so regularly? I kind of liken it to the coaches, the way they're calling these games. I've said it a couple times this week on the show. Almost like a boxer who wants to feel out their opponent in the first or second rounds, the early rounds, kind of get a feel for what the opponent is doing, and then they start to mount their offense. I don't like it, because if you mess around against the wrong team and you get in a hole, you're going to get what the Baltimore Ravens did to the Bills. What are you liking it to? Why do you think this team is just starting out so slow with games?
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. The comparison between that and a boxer is perfect. I think that's exactly what Buffalo's doing. It kind of makes sense on defense, and you're seeing the turnaround in the second half on defense. Offense, though, you can't be doing it. Like, I didn't understand the play calling whatsoever in the start of the Tennessee game. It made no sense. And I think you got lucky because you were facing a Tennessee team. You're versus the Cardinals, versus the Jets. I get it. Slower starts there, but you already saw versus the Ravens, it came back to bite you. I think Seahawks are in that same camp where they're not a team that you can have a slow start against and try to come back from because they're just too talented with or without DK Metcalf. It would definitely help them with DK Metcalf, but they still have Lockett. They still have JSN. They still have Walker. They're a very talented offense where if you get down early, you're going to have to change how you call the game. And I'd rather see, and I like Buffalo being in control of the scoreboard, being out like 7-0, 10-0, and making Seattle change their game plan to what you're doing to them. I do not like it when it's going to come back to bite them more often than not versus better teams if you go out to a slow start and try to mount a comeback because their defense can play a different style and can force the offense to play their style. It's nerve-wracking. And I summed it up on our show that came out on Thursday. It was probably the ugliest first half in Josh Allen's Buffalo Bills career that we saw play out on Sunday versus Tennessee Titans. It's lucky that it's the Titans. I don't think you would have the same luck if you did exactly what you did versus Seattle, though. Yeah, Josh Allen was 4 of 11 in the first half against Tennessee. Yeah, I mean, defensively, they're just willing to play that standard nickel. No blitzing, no zone blitzes, no, nothing. And it's like, well, what are you going to give us on offense? Let us see. And then we're going to adjust and kind of shut you down. Ed Oliver, I don't know exactly what he said, and I don't even want to paraphrase, but I know he talked about this a little bit Thursday. He met with the media after practice. And yeah, offensively, there's just no rhythm. There's no predictability. There's no creativity, no sense of the unknown, it feels like, with this offense. But that changed in the second half. I mean, Cooper caught that touchdown and the offense just seemed to start clicking. Let's take a real quick break, come back. We'll talk a little bit about Seattle and then go over some keys of the game and some bold predictions as well. All right, I'm back here with PK, Buffalo Sports Collective. When you're done listening to this, go find them if you haven't already. They got a new episode actually dropped on Thursday. Make sure you go check that out. All right, so they're playing Seattle this week. Just statistically speaking, they're the number one pass offense right now in the NFL. They're averaging just under 271 yard passing per game, but they're near the bottom in the league in rushing, just 27th. 13th in pass defense, 27th in rush defense. Statistically, this is a very mid team right now. I mean, their record is kind of mid as well. I mean, if you want to get into, fancier advanced metrics, they're 12th in DVOA overall. They're 9th in DVOA on offense, just 15th on defense. Offensively, they're 6th in passing EPA, 26th in rushing success. So, again, not really that good metrically running the football. Defensively, middle to back again, 16th in EPA overall, 14th passing EPA, 26th in rushing allowed success EPA. So kind of mid there, dude. Geno Smith, he's 11th in EPA right now. Josh Allen, by the way, is 2nd in the league. Daniels is 1st. 7th in EPA success rate. He leads all quarterbacks right now in the NFL in passing. He's at 1,985 yards. He's been sacked 20 times, tied for 3rd most in the league. What are your initial thoughts? And you mentioned DK Metcalf, knee injury, not practicing this week, not ruling him out either, though. But with their schedule ahead, like you said, when it comes to Bernard, I think they might play it a little bit on the cautious side with more games, more important games to them coming up as well. But and then one last thing too, home field for Seattle. Remember? I know you remember the Legion of Boom, Russ Wilson. That was like hell to go play at. It's still not easy. Don't get me wrong. Those fans are still rabid. They're loud. But this is a team that's lost twice at home already this season, including to the New York Giants. What are your thoughts right now on Seattle, whether statistically, offensively, defensively? What are your thoughts with them? Yeah, losing DK Metcalf, I think, is a massive loss to this team. I think their passing offense obviously just funnels through Metcalf, and I think that benefits Buffalo a ton because you're going to be able to focus more on Tyler Lockett and JSN in the passing game. And we've already seen how talented Benford and Douglas are on the outside. And I think them going against a Lockett and a JSN, not saying that they can't lock down a Metcalf, because we saw what they did versus Hill. We saw what they did versus Harrison. But if you can take Metcalf off the field and don't have to focus on him, that's a huge, huge benefit to Buffalo's defense. And it definitely hurts Seattle's offense, because you've been able to rely on a DK Metcalf for those big plays down the field, and taking him off, it's going to force the offense to kind of adapt their passing game and try to be more of a run funnel team, relying on more of a Kenneth Walker offense. So I think that's what they're probably going to start the offense looking to, is running Kenneth Walker, seeing if you can break the defense that Buffalo has been exposed to in the past. And if they're able to do that, they're going to find more success. And if they're not, then it's going to force Geno Smith to try to focus on Tyler Lockett, try to focus on JSN, who are quality players on the outside, but they're a big step down from DK Metcalf. And I think him not being there, which I think they're leaning towards him not practicing, Wednesday and Thursday, is a big indication that he's probably not going to be playing, especially with an injury like that. And like I mentioned, the 3 divisional games coming up, it's a game that Buffalo should have the advantage on defense with or without Bernard. It definitely is a loss, but if they don't have Metcalf, I think this is a definitely big win for Buffalo and overall for the game plan for them.
Seattle is they're a fun team. This should be a fun football game. Agreed. I mean, losing Metcalf potentially for them, we don't want to rule them out yet, but no Metcalf, no Bernard potentially for the Bills. Takes a little bit of the luster away just because they're 2 players, on different sides of the ball, but they're just fun to watch. This is a game, I feel like, if you remove being a Bills fan from the equation, or you remove being a Seattle fan, you're just a fan of football. Like, you like to sit in front of the TV and watch a game that should be fun, entertaining. I feel like this is going to be a really good matchup. Seattle's got a lot of prototype athletes on their team. Those edge guys are really good. Witherspoon's a great corner. Julian Love, their safety, former Notre Dame guy. I love him. Metcalf, of course, Lockett. There's a lot of Kenneth Walker Jr. or the third. A lot of really good, fun players. I got 4 keys to a victory for the Buffalo Bills. I do this with each preview. I'm going to run through these. I want to get some thoughts from you as well. I got 4 this week. Number 1, goes without saying, but continue to do what they've been elite at this season, which is taking care of the football and offense, which feels kind of ironic to say when you're talking about the Buffalo Bills, because for all of Josh Allen's wonderful attributes, taking care of the football has not been one of them. There's a dude who threw 18 picks last year, including 9 games in a row with at least a pick. He ain't got an interception this year. We're almost at the halfway point. Just 2 turnovers, period, for the Bills offense through 7 games. That's incredible. So, yeah, key number 1 to me is continue to take care of the football. How amazed are you right now? And I know there's some luck involved as well, but how amazed are you right now that the Bills have been so good and not turning the football over?
I think it shut a lot of people up, but I think it turned them to try to target Josh Allen for another reason, because everybody that's saying he throws too many interceptions, that's why you're never going to win. Those people all shut up and they tried to find something else to talk about. But yeah, you cannot give the Seahawks more extra possessions, because especially if Bernard's going to be out, or even at the very least, he's going to be hurting on that field. You're going to add that to the slow starts that Buffalo has already been used to having. You're going to, I need Buffalo to go out and score some points on that first drive. They need to go up 7-0, at the very least, go get a field goal to at least show themselves that they're able to do that and not start off in these slow starts. But if you're starting to give Seattle those extra possessions, even if they don't have DK Metcalf, it's setting you up, it's setting you back for something that it just can't happen. I know it hasn't happened this season. You already mentioned it, the 2 turnovers, but if they're able to not have any or limit it, I think that definitely sets Buffalo up for success. It's all about not giving Seattle those extra possessions, especially at home. And we already mentioned it, and you already mentioned it. The home crowd is not how it used to be, but it's still a tough area to play in. with those fans and a 12th man out there. So limit this secondary possessions and the extra possessions that Seahawks have, and you're setting yourself up for good success.
How surprised were you last week? The Bills win the toss, and Sean McDermott says, well, we'll receive. Didn't defer. Were you surprised? Do you want to see that again?
Looking at the whole of it, Cooper's first game with the team, home game, first home game in 3 weeks, it's not super shocking. It ended up not working, and I still love the double dip if you're able to do that. So I'm hoping that he learned his lesson and doesn't do it again. It would have, if they go down and score, I think it's a completely different first half, but going out 3 and out, not a good start for when you win the coin toss and go, give me the ball first, because I'm going down there scoring. And you're going, okay, here's the ball back, minute 30.
I just, if you stuck around, if you were here at the very beginning of the show and you heard the Damar Hamlin thing, I want you to stick around to the very end, because I actually have one more ironic piece that was really, really funny of the story from the tweet involving my house and my wife. Save that for the very end. But yeah, look, I get why you would want the ball first. It just doesn't work for the Bills. I will bet you anything you want to bet right now that if Sean McDermott, if they win that toss, they're deferring. I'd like to score first. But I don't know. They seem to have more success. I think of the Miami game week 2. They go out, they get an interception on the first drive, they score. That's how you set a real tone for the game. Never thought I would say that, because I used to lose my mind at not getting the ball first, especially maybe because the Bills had a more high-powered offense, and I used to hate not getting the ball right away. But I'm becoming a big fan of that double dip opportunity. And the Bills have had a few of those, or opportunities for them anyway, this year. They were successful against Arizona. They would have been successful against the Jets were it not for that stupid Hail Mary, same kind of deal. But so anyway, that's one. My next one, you kind of hit on Kenneth Walker at the third already running the ball. I think you got to contain him. This Bills defense in the first half, they just come out, they play that soft nickel, and they're not going to blitz. They're not going to bring the safeties up. They're not going to bring more people into the box. It's an opportunity for Walker. 300. He's been hurt too some this year, but 303 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. He's already got 6 touchdowns this year, and he's averaging 4.7 yards per carry. That's impressive. If you're going to just sit back in that nickel and, just play a base, I think Seattle will be obliged to run the football, and it's really on the guys like Ed Oliver and Rizzo and Epinesa to win their one-on-one battles with the offensive line, because the other teams have had a lot of success running the ball against the Bills early in games this year, but they have gotten away. You feel that?
Oh, yeah. That's why I think it's so important for them to get out early, because if you're able to do that, it's going to force the Seattle Seahawks to go away from the running game that I think they're going to want to do in this game. And I think that it'll benefit the Bills defense in the pass rush that seems to be looking better and better as it goes on. Gregory Rousseau is just an animal right now. I think if he's able to win some one-on-one battles, like you said early on in the game, and set the tone there, I think it's going to set the tone for the rest of the game. But I think getting up early and forcing Geno Smith to pass the ball more, it's going to expose him to more sacks. And you already mentioned it, 20 sacks on the year, tied for 3rd in the league right now in most sacks. If you're able to unleash Gregory Rousseau, that's a little hints for one of my bold predictions coming up later in the show. But I think he is just on a hot streak right now. It's just the numbers aren't backing it up yet, but he's getting that pressure rate and he's getting in the quarterback's face. And I think if he's able to do that, it's going to set the tone. And if Buffalo's offense is able to get out early, it's going to force them to get away from the run and try to pass, and that just benefits the Buffalo Bills defense.
Whether it's having success, the Bills on offense or stopping the run. Yeah, if you make Seattle one-dimensional and Geno Smith's got to throw the football, I think the mistakes are there to be had for him. Taking sacks, holding on to the football. He could have a slow release. He could telegraph some passes. There's opportunities there for the defense. On my third are the offensive tackles. Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown. They've been, for the most part, really good. I thought Spencer Brown actually had a sensational game against Tennessee. He was the highest graded player on the Bills offense for PFF, for an offensive line anyway, by far. But anyway, Seattle has 2 really good young edge rushers. Derek Hall, who's kind of transforming into a superstar type player. And then Boya Mafe is really good as well. Those guys are going to be a handful. Seattle doesn't really blitz all that much. They don't really need to, because These two edge guys, again, they're young, they're ascending, they're really good. And if the Bills don't have success running the football, we'll get to that in a second. But, if Josh is going to throw the football, and if these tackles struggle, these two edge rushers for Seattle can really make life hell. So your offensive tackles got to be on point in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Allen has the ability to get through that, but it's better if you're keeping him upright, and he has the ability to get out of those sacks. But I'm feeling so much better about the passing game if those tackles are able to hold up. And man, after it's been a year and a half now with Spencer Brown playing solid football, I look like a complete idiot 2 off seasons ago where I was just calling, they got to draft a right tackle because this guy is not hacking it. And,
you weren't alone. You weren't alone.
Oh, I was not alone, but
I was with you, man.
There are so many.
Brandon Bean, PK, Brandon Bean sat there and made excuses about his back. I remember it in the offseason. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So you weren't alone, buddy. Go ahead.
Oh, that's one of the disadvantages of having a podcast, because there are so many clips out there of just old takes exposed that can be exposed, and that's one of them. But yeah, he's had an unbelievable season this year. I think Deion Dawkins has had one of the best seasons he's had as well. So if they're able to come out and play like they have this season, I think it's going to be able to shut those edge rushers down, and it's going to allow Allen to stay in the pocket and pick that defense apart. So it's definitely a big week for those tackles on the outside.
Sure. And that's going to be in the passing game. Like, I suppose you can talk about Dawkins and Brown in the running game as well, because my fourth and final key for the Bills, Seattle's run defense is not that good. They can be exposed. And the Bills, it's not fun. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. We all want the Bills to throw the ball more. We want the receivers to get more involved. We want to see a more unpredictable, balanced offense here. But you know what? Seattle's run defense, not that good. This could be a big James Cook day. This could be a big Ray Davis day. And boy, oh boy, is that rookie really come on after a pretty slow start. Ty Johnson, he don't get a lot of opportunities, but he does good with those opportunities that he does get. So yeah, my fourth and final key to the game for Buffalo is just plain and simply, be really good in the running game, because it could be exposed. Again, Seattle's just 27th right now in rush defense, allowing almost 150 yards rushing per game.
Yeah, I think the Bills coaching staff, if Josh Allen passes for under 250 yards, I think it means they got the running game going, and I think that's what they're dreaming about in this matchup. If you can get the Cook-Davis combo going, I really think they have something special with those two back there, because they're almost that different style of running that you've been looking for a partner with James Cook. And you look so many places, and you tried so many combos with the Zach Mosses, with the Murrays last year as well. I think you really have something special going here with Davis. And I will admit, I was probably overreaction a bit after the Davis one start, but I put in our one friend group chat, I went, man, that game right there, that's just proving why you don't pay running backs, and why I think when James Cook is up, why you won't have to pay him, because you got a guy like Ray Davis who you can just roll out there and see what you get with him, where I know that's down the road. You still got a year and a half left of Cook's contract, but I think this combo on Sunday can be very, very special. And if they go for 200 yards combined, I wouldn't be completely shocked.
How do you feel the Bills at this point should be deploying the running backs between Cook and Ray Davis? Right now, it feels like Cook's getting the bulk of the work, but it's like they're in for series. Like it's the James Cook series. Then the next time it's the Ray Davis series. Like, you haven't seen him on the field in the same drive. You haven't seen him on the field at the same time. What do you think right now, based on what you're seeing? What should that timeshare be? Like, if you were Joe Brady right now, what's your snap percentage for these two guys? They bring two different things to the table too. Like, they're different styles of running backs. So is it matchup dependent? What do you think?
I was a little bit let down when you saw Davis pop up late last week on the injury report, because I was interested to see how Joe Brady was going to deploy both those guys. Maybe this week, with both of them more healthy, we'll see an option where they're both out there on the field at the same time. I think that unlocks what you saw to Ray Davis. I think unlocks more options for the running game, where you can have them both on the field at the same time, and you don't know who's going to get the ball. I think it unlocks just more creativity if it's there for Joe Brady. I think with the breakdown, I know Phil asked me this on our podcast, the same thing, what this Ray Davis game unlocks for the running game and what that means for the snap counts and the carries. I think you're still probably going to see like a 70-30 split there, but I would like to see drives that aren't just all James Cook. Then the next drive is just all Davis. I would like to see a mixture in there because it's going to give the defense a different look of what to expect. You're not going to know. You're going to either have James Cook that's able to deke you out or Ray Davis that's going to run you over. So I think moving forward, I would like to see more of a combo on those same drives where, maybe on the field at the same time, maybe, hey, James Cook gets 2 here and then you throw in a Ray Davis to switch up the offense. So I think as long as they're both healthy and, fingers crossed they stay healthy, I think you're going to see more interesting, creative combos between those two with Joe Brady out there.
One more reason to stick around, everybody, to the very end of the show. Our good friend Bruce Nolan, Bruce exclusive, of course. I think he might be trying to rip me off in a fantasy football trade. I'm going to read it off. I inquired about a player that most Bills fans hate. And we're going to read off his reply here at the very end. Let's see if he's trying to screw me over, my guy, Bruce. Anyway, all right, bowl predictions time. We're going to do 3 each here. You want me to start? We'll save the best for last. We'll let you go last here. I got 3.
I got 3 also.
Yeah. You got 3 also. So we'll do my 3 and then we'll do your 3.
That works. That works for me.
All right, let's go. Number 1. We just talked about James Cook and Ray Davis. I got James Cook going for 100 yards or more and a touchdown. And that's not necessarily because I think James Cook has like 26 carries for 107 yards. I think James Cook's going to bust one. Maybe he has like 14 carries for like $113 or something like that. He's going to have at least a 25 to 40 yard run. I don't know if it's going to be a touchdown on that run, but he's going to bust a long run. So that's my first one, 100 yards and a touchdown for James Cook. I always try to have one that kind of benefits negative to the Bills, benefits the other team, a little negative to the Bills here. Keep it a little bit balanced. I got Noah Fant, who I think is a really good tight end for Seattle. He hasn't scored a touchdown this whole season, though. I think he's going to get in the end zone. The Bills are a little bit prone to giving up plays to tight ends. I could see a crossing pass or something in the middle of the end zone. He beats Damar Hamlin. Sorry, Mario. But Noah Fant is going to get his first touchdown of the season for Seattle. And then the last one, and I got to tell you this, PK, I've nailed these last 2. Every week I pick a Bills player and anytime touchdown for the Bills. But it's not the obvious ones. Like James Cook's borderline obvious. Of course, Josh is obvious. 2 weeks ago, I nailed Mac Hollins. Last week, who did I nail last week? I know I nailed somebody last week. Ty Johnson. I said Ty Johnson was going to score a touchdown, and he did. This week, I've used him twice early in the season. Then I got away from him. I'm coming back. I'm circling back around, even though he's been limited in practice this week. Dawson Knox is going to have a touchdown. I can feel it in the corner of the end zone. Josh rolls out. He finds Dawson Knox. We've seen it already earlier this season. But Dawson Knox is going to score a touchdown for the Buffalo Bills. Shout out YouTube regular watcher, Colleen, the biggest, I think, Dawson Knox fan on this earth. If I ever say anything bad about Dawson Knox, I think she wants to stab me. So I'm going to let you know, Colleen, Dawson's scoring a touchdown this week. What do you got?
I'm just going to go to DraftKings right now and place all those bets on what you just said, and then I'll yell at if they don't pay. But yeah, it's been a while since James Cook busted one. So I definitely see him breaking one long one. Whether it goes for a touchdown or not, I agree with you. I think probably like 15 or 16 touches for over 100 yards. I think that's perfect. I do agree. I love Noah Fant when he was in Denver. It's just he hasn't panned out to what I thought he would end up being when he got drafted. And then Dawson Knox, I could definitely see it. 2 touchdowns in 3 weeks. I will take it for your backup tight end. I'm going the other way with the tight end. Instead of 100 yards for James Cook, I got Kincaid going over for 100 yards. I don't think that means that this offense is going to go nuts, but I do think this could be a breakout game for Dalton Kincaid. We've been waiting for it all year. I came on this show. I came on my show multiple times saying this is the breakout year for Dalton Kincaid. It just hasn't happened. Last week was the season high, 3 for 52. The week before that, 51. So maybe he can double that and go over for 100 this week.
Okay, I like it.
Geno Smith, I think he's going to pass for over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I think that's going to be paired with 2 interceptions as well, and one of them could be late. And then the third one,
Damar Hamlin.
It could fall into Damar Hamlin's lap. It could possibly. And then Gregory Rousseau, I think he is due for a big game. He's only got 3.5 sacks this season so far, but he's played much better than that indicates. I got him for 2 sacks in the game on Sunday.
He could have had 2 sacks last week, too.
That's what I mean. The stats just don't back up how good he's been.
All right, so you got Geno Smith going over 250 with 2 touchdowns, but also 2 picks. You got Kincaid over 100 yards, and you got a big game from Greg Rizzo. I love it, man. And by the way, I'm just playing about Damar, so don't take that shit all serious. Unless he plays bad, I'm going to rip him. It's just what I do. What's your, give me your game pick, man. What do you got a final score? Let's do that.
I do agree with what you said. If you're taking out your bias and your fandom, this is a very, very fun game to watch. I think that's why they gave Tom Brady, and that's going to be a dreadful listen. But I got them 27-24, Bills win. I think Buffalo goes down there. We will see Tyler Bass kick a field goal to take that lead with under 2 minutes to go. But I think the defense gets the stop, so I'll give them 27-24, close victory.
27-24. Okay. And by the way, I've heard a lot about Tom Brady and the job he's done, some good, some bad. I have not watched and listened to him yet, so I'm actually kind of looking for. You have? I haven't yet.
It was okay. It's. Right. I mean, it takes a lot away when he can't talk to the other teams now. He's the only one that bought an NFL team and found a way to be lazier and not have to do his job and make millions and millions of dollars. It's great for him. Kudos to him. I'm
looking forward to seeing how he does this game. I'm going to go. I got Buffalo winning. No surprise there. I picked against Buffalo twice this year. I got Buffalo winning 29-23. I don't know how I arrived at that score. 29-23 and a bonus bold prediction. I'm not saying it's going to win the game, but Tyler Bass is going to have a fourth quarter field goal. I've been down on him in the dumps. Maybe I'm in a feel good mood right now, but Tyler Bass is going to have a fourth quarter field goal that matters. Like the difference, between being up 3, 4 and 8 or something like that. Or 5 and 8. That'll make it they'd still get the 2 points. Whatever. I'm babbling. But Tyler Bass is kicking a field goal. The Bills are winning 29-23. For a couple of minutes here, you are a hockey guy as well. The Sabres. I went on this show last week when they lost to Columbus and lost my shit. Rasmus Dahlin in the locker room talked about the team didn't come out hungry enough. I blew my mind on my show. Tim Graham talked about it on his show, said it looked like I was going to have a stroke afterwards, which he wasn't. It wasn't too off base there. They looked like shit, and I was like, here we go again. Well, short time later here now, they're 3-1-1 in their last 5. A very impressive victory over a very, very good Dallas team on Tuesday night. They did beat Florida already this year. Granted, they were missing a couple guys, but still, they beat Florida. They're starting to play really well. They're good on 5-on-5. They suck on special teams. It's embarrassing how bad they are on special teams. What do you make of this team right now? Like, they're an enigma, and I guess being an enigma is better than being scrubs, because they're not scrubs. I consider them an enigma. What do you make of this team and what you're seeing so far this season?
I will say I'm very happy that we're still just once a week right now through the offseason, because I was right there with you after the Columbus game. I was going to rip them, and it happened to be after we recorded, so I didn't have to. And then I had a week, and then we saw the rest of the games, and I'm like, okay, this is one of the benefits of only once a week recording at the moment. But yeah, it's another position where I look like an idiot, because one of my bold predictions was they would be top 8 on the power play, and they might struggle on 5-on-5 scoring. And it's complete flipped of they're one of the best 5-on-5 scorers right now, and they suck on the power play. And I think their entire organization right now sucks on the power play. But I think what Seth Appert is doing on the power play, and against Dallas, they have one opportunity, but it looked the best it has all season long. I think it's going to slowly come around. And I think it was Joe Yerdon was on with WGR this morning, or Thursday morning, I should say, because this is coming out on Friday, that it's going to take a little bit longer because it's changing up completely on the power play, because they didn't have a regular offseason with traveling to Europe, where they weren't really able to work on it. So it's going to be a slow transition back into it. It sucks that that's the case this year, because, where 5-on-5 is looking so good, and if they just had an average power play, what this team could be capable of. I'm going to hold out hope that this power play is going to turn around. I'll probably start judging it more harshly after 15 to 20 games. Fair. But if they're able to turn that thing around, that power play with what you're getting with the 5-on-5, I'm getting more and more excited because you're actually starting to see the Lindy Ruff style of play out on the field or on the ice, not the field, on the ice. But the one thing that I've been calling for on our show for the last 2 to 3 weeks, you have to put in, this is just my 100% opinion. I am not a hockey guy. I just love watching and love talking about the team. I really feel like you have to put JJ Peterka back with Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn. Will it have a negative effect on the top line? Probably a little, but I think with the way Tage is playing right now, you can put Kulik up there with him, and I don't think you're going to see a massive drop-off on that line with what could be such a benefit for that second line and Dylan Cousins. We have not seen Dylan Cousins be Dylan Cousins since Peterka came off that line. If you're able to pair that kid line back together, maybe that's what Dylan Cousins needs to be able to fix. Yes, he's had a bit of bad luck, but put that Peterka, Quinn, and Cousins line back together, put Kulik or Benson on that top line, because I don't think they will miss a beat. And if you can fix that second line with the power play, you might actually have something here with the Buffalo Sabres.
I actually threatened to, I said if Cousins doesn't score Saturday, they play Detroit. I said that I might refuse to shave until Dylan Cousins scores a goal this year.
Join me?
Yeah, I can't join you. See, you have the nice beard. Yeah, you look good, man. You see, that shit does not work on me. I need to be a baby face. Hair does not grow well on me. It grows in patches all over the place. But yeah, I threw in to say I was not going to shave until Dylan Cousins scores, but I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet. One last thing I did want to talk about the Sabres, though. How about Ryan McLeod, man? I mean, this guy, holy shit.
Won the deal.
You want to talk about a great third-line center, man. This trade early on, Savoy might go on to do great things with the Oilers. Hell, I hope he does. I have no problem with the kid. But what a deal. We want to bash Kevin Adams, bash his brains in for everything he does or doesn't do. Let's tip the cap here early in the season, because the early returns that is a bona fide, really good number 3 center who probably could play a bigger role on this team if he had to. I am uber impressed right now with Ryan McLeod.
Yeah, I bashed myself enough on this one. I will credit myself. I love the trade when they made it, because this is exactly what you needed to do as an organization, where you have a stockpile of prospects where on paper they got blasted for this type of deal. But I went and said, these are the type of deals that you need to make to bring in a guy that fits your offense and is exactly what you need for this type of team. You need that third line center that can win those important draws and play against and just play that dirty game. Now, will he continue this scoring pace? I highly doubt it. There's no way he scored 4 straight games. There's not going to be a way. He's got to see a career high of like 12 goals. So it's going to slow down, but he adds so much more to this. That third line has been carrying for what this second line hasn't been able to do. That third line is great with Zucker and Greenway. And last time I was on here, it was before we were talking about when you're going to kick Greenway to the curb. He's played great on
he's been really good. Yeah.
With McLeod there, that's the type of deal that you look back and that's one of those ones where, yes, Matt Savoy might come out and play unbelievable with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl or whoever else is with Edmonton down the line. But you're talking about the here and the now of exactly what you need for the Buffalo Sabres. And looking back, there's a lot of people that bash that deal. And yes, it's only 8-9 games in right now with Ryan McLeod, but he's producing more than I thought he could and playing that role perfectly for the Buffalo Sabres. I absolutely love what he's doing to that line right now, especially caring for that second line that hasn't started to produce yet.
Me too. All right. So before we get out of here, I'm going to take you inside the war room, so to speak, or the front offices of Team Patrick Moran TV. So we're in a media dynasty league. And I've been talking with Bruce Nolan. I don't even know exactly what he said, but much to possibly Bruce's chagrin, because I'm reading this out loud, so he might not want to trade with me ever again after this. We're going to find out in real time if he's trying to get me or not. So I inquired my team. I have a good team. I'm 4-3 in this league. I'm really happy with my running backs, my receivers, my tight end. Now that Ingram's back, Hawkinson's coming back. I got a good team. My quarterback's low. Aaron Rodgers, Gardner Minshew, And Justin Herbert, who I traded for this offseason, he's not getting it done. Not as a fantasy quarterback anyway. Their Chargers are running the ball. I don't want to get into that. Anyway, I'm looking for a quarterback, man. I'm trying to better my team, and Bruce is always down the trade. I love that. Bruce operates like a legit franchise. Like, he probably calls every other team in the league at least once or twice a week to try to see what you're thinking. He's very involved. That's why he's such a brilliant football mind. But anyway, I said, what would you be asking for in price for Tua, out of curiosity? Because he's got Tua, and he's got 2 other good quarterbacks too. So this is his 3rd quarterback. Let's see what he says. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it much. Probably a good wide receiver or running back plus capital to bridge positional value. Example, I paid a 1st rounder plus Deontay Johnson for him before Deontay's value dropped. I could already tell he's trying to get me for more than what Tua is worth right now. This guy, hey, Bruce, this dude is one more, and I don't mean this to be funny, and I sure hope it don't happen, but this guy's smacking his head on the turf one more time, and his career's probably over, man. You want a 1st-round pick and a good player for Tua? What are you thinking? What are you thinking, PK? Now, this is dynasty, too, so it's not year to year. So if I were to give up, say, a good young player like a rookie, like Roma Donze, Bruce has him for the next 5, 6, 7 years, however long he wants him. Vice versa, like I said, with Tua. If you were interested in Tua, what would you be giving up? Not specifically, a player or whatever, but are you nervous about him being done, that you're not going to give up a lot to give him, whether it's draft capital, players, whatever? I feel like, I wouldn't go as far to say Bruce is trying to con me here, but he's certainly trying to get a lot, it feels like, without naming specific players for Tua. I don't know. I like that.
Well, the first question, is it a super flex or more of a standard league? Like, are you starting 2 or just 1 quarterback?
Well, you got to start 1 quarterback, and then I'm going to actually pull this up in real time, and I'm going to look at the lineup, because this is a cool league, by the way. We got rid of kickers. I know there's no kickers in the league. We kicked them completely out. So you have a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and then you got 3 flex players. But a quarterback can only be flexed in one of them. So the maximum quarterbacks you could start in a league on your team is 2. Like I said, I got Herbert. Why am I spilling my secrets here to the world? I know Bruce is going to listen to this. I got Aaron Rodgers, Herbert, and Gardner Minshew, again, who's trash. I got Spencer Rattler, but he ain't ready to be a good quarterback anyway. So, I mean, it's a premium. I need it. Bruce is smart enough to know that I need Tua. It's a good fantasy quarterback if he can stay healthy. How high you willing to go, though, on that risk that he'll stay healthy? I guess that's what we're getting at here. He
would definitely probably slide in as your top quarterback. 100%. I might be hurting you here, so maybe you want to just cut this out. But since you can start 2 quarterbacks, that already adds value to him. It's a high risk, high reward, because he is unfortunately 1 hit away from losing his entire career. But with that offense, and we've seen what Mike McDaniel can do with that offense with Tua and Waddle, he could unlock it, or he could be 1 hit away. So I guess it depends on, do you think your team can win it? Because if yes, titles don't go away. You can brag that over the rest of the league forever. I do that all the time in mine, because I've won 2 of the 7 years. They hate it when I show up to the draft every year, because I bring a secondary trophy that's not even a league trophy. I made one myself that shows what years I've won. But yeah, if you can win it, I don't think it negatively hurts moving a 1st-round pick for it. I guess it comes down to what is that secondary piece that you would add to it. But yeah, if you can add to it to that offense and he can stay healthy, I think if you think you can win it, moving a 1st-round pick in a league where you can start 2 quarterbacks, which would be an instant upgrade for you, probably doesn't hurt. I guess it just depends on what that secondary piece is that you would have to move for him.
If this trade happens, I'm going to work right after this show, because once this airs and he hears that I could really use Tua, he's probably not going to give it for what I want. Shout out Greg Thompson, by the way, from Cover One's a defending champion in this league. I think Joe Marino won it 2 years ago. But I look at it. So if he were to want a receiver plus draft capital, I'm looking at my receivers. Zay Flowers and Malik Neighbors, I ain't trading them. Jordan Addison, might be able to get talked into that. What other receivers I got here? I got Roma Dunze again. That's a rookie, man. I'm not trading him. I don't think he wants Gabe Davis. Why do I got Gabe Davis on my team? Hell, man. Romeo Dobbs. That's about it. So I guess Jordan Addison, maybe in like a third, something like that. I still say he's going to want more than that, though. I think that'd be as high as I'd be willing to go. Too risky, man. I got Mike Wilson from Arizona, too. So
yeah, I mean, if you toss in Addison with a first, with
I don't have a first,
Tua and a kicker, it's not bad if you win it. No, I mean a kicker on his side, like add in another piece, maybe like a later pick or like a second or third pick or a depth wide receiver to replace Jordan Addison, who might have a breakout game here and there. But yeah, Tua would definitely help your team. Like if you think you're a championship title team, he could possibly with that
Addison, maybe Addison. I have Jalen Warren, who I'm out on him. I don't think he's really. I got better running back backup options too, and a pick. I'm going to let you know. I'm going to report back to the podcast, and I'll let you know personally if we end up working out a trade for Tua after we're done wrapping this up. All right, one last thing, then we're going to go here. We're at the fun little end part of this podcast. So at the beginning, I told you about, the whole Damar Hamlin thing, how it unfolded. So I did a live stream Wednesday late night from like 10 o'clock, got done around 11ish or so. So I'm downloading the episode onto my laptop so I could edit the audio version because the video side was already live. That's when the tweet came up, and I started laughing real loud. I'm in my home office studio here. My wife is out in the living room watching a little television, and I said, "You ain't gonna believe that." I said, "Damar Hamlin's dad is telling me to get nuts in his mouth, blah 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 blah, this and that." I'm laughing like really out loud. I'm like, "This is pretty freaking wild, man." I have this habit of attracting known people or families of well-known people to come at me. I have this big, long storied history with Dante Whitner in the past, so we'll get into that another time, another episode. And then other instances like that. And I kind of have on Facebook this running little recurring segment that today in Pat Moran talking Buffalo hater comments, and people will say the nasty shit to me because, again, it comes with the territory. I get it, especially Reddit. Woo, you think Twitter's bad? Reddit, when I put up clips, if they don't like it, if it's something negative, man, oh man. Anyway, so I started laughing. I was like, I can't go out there and tell my wife. So I'm telling her about this. He's saying this, that, and why, and what all of that. I look at my wife, literally, guess what she has on? A blue t-shirt from 26 Shirts, show love for Damar. She had a Damar Hamlin t-shirt on that, by the way, I bought. She stole from me. And she's literally wearing it so randomly and ironically. She's wearing her Damar Hamlin shirt as I'm out there. And I didn't realize it at first. And I'm going on and on about, because I thought it was funny, actually, about Damar's dad laying into me and shit. And my wife literally has on a Damar Hamlin t-shirt. And I promise you, she did not know that this was coming out. I was like, what? The irony in that is just nuts.
Yeah, that would be a perfect example of proving why some people might think we're still living in the Truman Show, because that would fit perfectly there, where she has no idea what's going on, but behind the scenes, she actually does. That would prove that we are living in the Truman Show, that it is true.
What a way to end the show. Guys, if you don't do it already, again, make sure you go check out Buffalo Sports Collective, a really good podcast. PK, Phil, they crush it. Make sure you follow PK on Twitter at PK_BSC. I love having you on, man. When you get the opportunity and our schedules kind of align together, it's always good to have you on. Appreciate you, buddy.
Always a fun time.
All right, guys. And I will be back again live Sunday night at 10 p.m. Bills play at 4:30, I think 4:25 against Seattle. I'll be on with Joe from Queens, live reactions this Sunday night. Talk to you then.